This is distance formula number 4. Raoul decides to learn how to fly a bush plane and to read maps drawn on Cartesian planes, and he's got to figure out how far his first solo flight will be, depicted by the graph rounded to the nearest tenth of a unit. So it doesn't. This question doesn't indicate whether he's flying from here to here or from here to here, it's an interesting thing to consider, only because if you're flying, assuming it's a one-way flight, the distance from this point to this point is exactly the same as the distance from this point to this point across that map. So assuming he's flying in one way, whether he leaves up this northern tip down here and flies out to James Bay, or vice versa from James Bay back to that tip of Labrador there, it doesn't really matter. The distance will be the same in either direction. So it doesn't matter which one I call my P1 and my P2 in this particular case. So I'm going to start by writing down the formula for the distance formula. Distance is equal to the square root of, and we're going to go x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And so distance will be equal to the square root of. So, you know what my points are going to be? Well, I'll set those up over here. Hopefully I can fit them. Let's do this down here. Negative 118. I'll call that my x1 and my y1. And my 37 100, I'll call that my x2 and my y2. So the distance is equal to 100 minus, 37 minus negative 100. Squared plus 100 minus 18. And we'll square that one as well. So distance will be equal to square root of 37 minus negative 100 is 137 squared, plus 100 minus 18 is 82, which I'll also have to square. So distance is equal to, so we're going to get a large number here, 137 squared is equal to 18,769 plus 82 squared is equal to 6,724, which I have to then add back to my 18,769, giving me 25,493. If you want to write that down, 25,493. And then, of course, at the end of the day, I have to take the square root, last step. So square root of 25,493 is going to give me 159.66 or 159.7 units. Now, look at that right there. A lot of students will stop and call that 159.6. Don't get caught. When you got around to the nearest tenth of the unit, you have to look back at that hundredth of a unit, the one before, to decide whether it rounds up or down. This one rounds up. Okay, you've done all that work correctly, and to get burnt on a decimal would be a real shame. 4 marks of a test, right, on a decimal. So be careful when you're rounding.